No, or DC course. Okay. All right, it's 5 p.m., April 21st. We're going to call the City Council regular meeting to order. Please stand. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I believe Nikki is going to come and say the prayer for us, our very own Nikki.
Heavenly Father, we come before you today with gratitude for the opportunity to serve our community. We ask for your guidance and wisdom as these leaders make decisions that affect the lives of so many. Grant them clarity in thought, fairness in judgment, and a spirit of cooperation and respect. Help them to listen with open minds, speak with integrity, and act in the best interests for all citizens. We ask for unity and purpose, even in times of disagreement, and for a shared commitment to justice, compassion, and the common good. Bless this meeting and the work that will be done here today. May it bring positive outcomes for our city and all who call it home. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
We didn't make you sing. I thought that would have been very entertaining. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 3, which is proclamations and presentations. Our first item is that it's National Library Week. So we have a proclamation, and if Director Barrera come up, please, Miss Stephanie.
So National Library Week is April 19th through the 25th. And this year our theme is Find Your Joy. And the honorary chair is Michael Freaks. He's really, really famous on TikTok, and his he always talks about, like how library brings joy to so many people. And it's the place where you can go in any community and fit in and belong and just let your imagination run.
Okay, that's awesome. I have a proclamation to read. You have something as well?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Are you sure? Okay, I'm going to read it. Y'all can read it. I'm perfectly fine if y'all want to read it. Okay, all right, I'll read it. All right. So whereas libraries spark creativity, fuel imagination, and inspire lifelong learning, offering a space where individuals of all ages can find joy through exploration and discovery. And whereas libraries serve as a vibrant community hub, connecting people with knowledge, technology, and resources while fostering civic engagement, critical thinking, and cultural enrichment. And whereas libraries partner with schools, businesses, and organizations to maximize resources, increase efficiency, and expand access to essential services, strengthening the entire community. And whereas libraries nurture young minds through story times, STEAM programs, literacy initiatives, fostering curiosity, and a love of learning that lasts a lifetime. And whereas dedicated librarians and library workers provide welcoming spaces that inspire discovery, collaboration, and creativity for all. And whereas libraries, librarians, library workers across the country are joining together to celebrate National Library Week under the theme of Find Your Joy. Now, therefore, I, Wendy Moore, Mayor of the City of Port Aransas, do hereby proclaim April 19th through the 25th, 2026 as National Library Week in the City of Port Aransas, and encourage all residents to visit their library, explore its resources, and celebrate all the ways the library helps our community to find joy. Congratulations. So are you having activities this week?
Yes.
Or just an open house all week? Yep.
Now,
Sure.
since we don't have parking, we didn't do the
cookies and coming and going because there's nowhere for anybody to.
Oh, that's
Parking our parking lot, walk
changed
over,
soon.
steps in.
Next year, right?
So, Mara put together this, week of activities. She started with a scavenger hunt today, and tomorrow, people will be able to go in and put puzzles together. She's doing a stuffy sleepover and then build it, where they get to use Legos or STEM kits.
Awesome.
STEAM kits.
STEAM kits. Yeah, very cool. Well, great job. Thank you, ladies, very much. We'll stop by.
And stop on the library.
Is it a real sleepover or just for the stuffies?
It's just for the
Oh,
stuff. And
Cool.
they cause so much chaos every year. If they do the sleepover every year.
Yeah. All right, y'all do a great job. Very proud of you. Okay, next, we actually have a presentation from the City of Corpus Christi Water on water supply and the future planning initiatives. Welcome, sir. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Nick Winkleman, I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Corpus Christi Water. I do want to thank Mayor Moore and the City Manager Parsons for allowing me to speak tonight. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Our City Manager, Peter Zanoni, is unable to attend tonight. He was really hoping to be here, but he got called away at the last moment. So he apologizes for that. So you're stuck with me. So with all that being said.
but you're the expert.
Yes, that's right. We're going to hold you to it.
So I do have a presentation, and we've got it loaded on the screen, and I'd like to run through that presentation. And I do want to preface, so we do have some information, including our updated water supply dashboard that was presented for the first time to our council this afternoon. So it's hot off the presses. And we had a workshop today starting at 10 o'clock to go over our level 1 water emergency planning. So some of the slides that you'll see today are taken from this afternoon's presentation that I gave at our city council. So that being said, so this is, I hope you've seen this dashboard model before. This is the most updated version. This was actually finalized by our team Saturday afternoon. That was with city staff and our consultants. And I'd like to walk you through this slide so you understand what's going on. The line at the top is our projected water demand. And you can see towards on the right side, there are some pink dots. That is a demand reduction as a result of our wastewater effluent reuse program. So those dots signify how the demand is being lowered as a result of use of wastewater effluent in lieu of potable water.
Is that because it's coming online at that point?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like in December-ish.
Yeah, you're absolutely
Okay.
correct. So
All right.
December is when that the first demand reduction starts. And I've got a specific slide on that will go through some of that timeline. The dark blue lines at the top are the western reservoirs. So that is Choke Canyon Reservoir and Lake Corpus Christi. You can see where they are providing some of our water supply today, but of course those reservoirs are at all-time historic lows and continue to be affected by this historic drought we're in. The lighter blue bars are our eastern supply, that's Lake Texana and the lower Colorado River. Of course, those two sources are supplied to the Owen Stevens water treatment plant through the Mary Roads pipeline. You can see where the reliance on the eastern supplies has grown and has really steadied the system through this drought. The orange bars at the bottom are our Nueces County groundwater program. You can see how those bars increase as more wells come online and the production increases. The Nueces County groundwater program is and remains instrumental in our ability to weather this drought no pun intended, to deal with this drought, especially with the significant reductions of the western reservoirs. And then the purple line at the very bottom, you can see it starts about 10% or so on the left, and it goes to 0. That is the percentage that the western reservoirs are at and the projection of where they will be. So again, without any inflows, those reservoirs are headed towards 0. And that's just a fact. One thing that I would like to say, so there are some assumptions in this model, and I'm going to go over those assumptions right now. The model, the assumptions are that there's no significant inflows into Lake Corpus Christi, Wesley Seal Dam, and Lake Texana. We have had some beneficial rain over the weekend, and Lake Texana continues to receive beneficial rainfall today. So again, this model was finalized on Saturday, and it's a dynamic model. Things change every single day. The model also predicts a 20% curtailment from Lake Texana starting in August of 2026. That is when the Lavaca Navidad River Authority projects Lake Texana to be below 40%. That projection was given to us on Thursday or Friday of last week. We feel that projection will change after the beneficial rainfall of this week. It also assumes that the Nueces groundwater program continues to operate under the TCEQ Bennett Banks permit. There is a slight nuance to that. The production of the groundwater program actually will increase in December. At that time, we will have a 36-inch conveyance line constructed and online that will take the water from the well field directly to our own Stevens water treatment plant. That helps us in a number of ways. We're not using the river as a conveyance line, so we're not losing what is referred to as carriage loss or carrying losses in the river. Allows us to capture all 24 million gallons a day. And then, as I stated earlier, thanks to City Manager Parsons, the reclaimed effluent water starts to come online in December. But if we could just go back to the chart, I'd like to define what level 1 water emergency is. That is the projected date when we are 180 days or 6 months away from not having enough supply to meet our demand. And when I'm talking about supply and demand, I'm talking about supply and demand for the entire Corpus Christi water system, which, as you know, spans 7 counties and approximately 500,000 people. What the staff at Corpus Christi Water and the city do every single day is to avoid that date at all cost. And I am going to show you the work that we're doing to avoid that date. So one of the things that the city manager and I feel extremely strong about is the importance of diversifying our water supply portfolio. Corpus Christi Water has in the past relied solely on surface water. And I argue that the city and Corpus Christi Water has done a great job of diversifying the surface water supply. Historically, we've relied on Lake Corpus Christi and Choke Canyon Reservoir. Then we added Lake Texana, and then we added the Colorado River. Lake Texana is 101 miles away from the Owen Stevens Water Treatment Plant. Add additional 40 miles, and that gets you to the lower Colorado River. The city has done a great job of diversifying that surface supply. However, when you're in times like we are today, historic 5-year drought, where it's more than just the Nueces watershed that's affected, it's also the Lake Texana watershed. We need to move forward into more diversification. The diversification consists, of course, of surface water supplies, the addition of groundwater supplies, the use of effluent reuse, and then the addition of seawater desalination. The diversified supply will allow for this region to sustain itself in the future. And it will, my opinion, allow for future generations to not have to deal with this situation in the future. Bringing these new supplies on allows us to properly manage a supply. It allows us to not depend solely on one source. We can alternate the use from the different sources, and it allows us to sustainably provide water in the future. And I'll go through each of these as we go forward. So first, let's talk about surface water. And this is what the one that most people are more commonly aware of. The picture on the left is our Choke Canyon Reservoir, and I guarantee you, if you have an opportunity to go to Choke Canyon Reservoir, it is very humbling experience. Of course, we operate the dam there, so I'm there periodically. I've stood on the edge of one of the boat docks, and the water was 2 football fields away from me. And the other thing to note is when you see some trees that certainly have been there for multiple years between you and the water from the edge of the boat dock, it's absolutely unbelievable. So currently the combined reservoir percentage of our western reservoirs is 7.9%. And again, that's the lowest it's ever been. Lake Texana, we've been extremely concerned about Lake Texana over the last couple of months. Its current reservoir capacity is 57%. And again, this reservoir is operated by the Lavaca Navidad River Authority. That reservoir percentage has been as low as 53%. That was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. There's been a little bit of beneficial rain, so it's increased. We do expect it to go up a little more. And why that is critical is because once that reservoir hits certain percentages at 50% and 40% and 30%, there's reductions where Corpus Christi water has to reduce the amount of water we are withdrawing from the lake. So we can't afford to have that affected at all, one bit. When we look at groundwater, we have a number of different programs. So the first is the Evangeline Groundwater Project that's located in San Patricio County. It is near the city of Sinton. The city of Corpus Christi has purchased groundwater rights from the Evangeline Laguna Group. The purchase of those rights close when the Evangeline Laguna Group obtains all the required permits. Currently, the group has one of the more important permits, which is the production permit. Essentially, the San Patricio Groundwater Conservation District has stated that they have rights to produce 25 million gallons a day from that site. However, what they don't have are the drilling permits and the transport permits. The drilling permits are being contested. They're being contested by 3 parties. One is the city of Sinton, one is the St. Paul Water Supply Corporation, and one is a area irrigation farmer. There is a preliminary hearing to determine which of those 3, if any, contestants have standing, and then that will determine the process going forward. The applications that have been submitted clearly meet the requirements of the groundwater district. They clearly show that the impacts to these entities will be negligible after 30 years of pumping. And you could argue that there will be no impacts. What the studies have shown is the drawdown in the city of Sinton wells. After 30 years of continuous pumping, the additional drawdown, it'll be anywhere from 5 to 10 feet. And again, what we've provided is information that the likelihood of us pumping 30 years continuously at that rate is very little, because we want to ensure that we manage our water supply appropriately. And once the western reservoirs rebound, that is the most cost efficient sufficient water for our customers, so we would utilize that. Time is not on our side, as what you can see from the initial dashboard. And we've got to do everything we can to ensure that we get some water from this project at the end of this year. We're targeting 4 million gallons a day starting in November. And for that to happen, a lot of work has got to take place. Our council has approved a construction manager at risk contract with Garney Construction. They are moving thousands of feet of pipe into the site as we speak. We will begin installing water pipelines early next month, early May, so that when these drilling permits are approved, we can drill the wells and get the water immediately into the Mary Rhodes pipeline. The advantage of this project site is location. It's adjacent to the Mary Rhodes pipeline, which gets the water to the Owen Stevens treatment plant. It also has good water quality, some of the better water quality in our area in San Patricio and Nueces County for the Evangeline Aquifer. So we're fortunate our city council continues to support this project and allows us to move forward so that when the drilling permits are obtained, we can begin drilling and get water into the system so that we can avoid that level 1 water emergency date. We have a substantial project in the Nueces County. This consists of a couple of different well fields. First well field we refer to as our Eastern well field. This was conducted on city-owned property. We moved extremely quick, cleared the land, cleaned it up, drilled wells, and that well field has been operational and online since August of last year. Currently, it's producing about 4.5 million gallons a day on average. The well field can produce approximately 10. However, the bed and banks permit that TCEQ issued has some operating protocols that we must follow. The water from that well field is currently being discharged into the Nueces River. And that is how we are conveying it to the Owen Stevens water treatment plant.
And that's because of the total dissolved solids levels are too high.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the bed and banks permit, the operating protocols are only concerned with total dissolved solids. And the Eastern well field has a higher TDS. And what happens is we look at the residual total dissolved solids in the river. And then when it hits certain percentages, we have to cut back some of the wells so that we don't exceed the limits in the operating permit. Some of the comments that we've made to TCEQ is that there's a couple of interesting things going on. One, the river is not only affected by the wells, it's affected by other influencing things. There are high TDS streams that are like a 10,000 TDS that enter the river. The water quality coming out of Lake Corpus Christi and Choke Canyon continues to degrade as those levels drop. We've seen an increase of arsenic coming out of Lake Corpus Christi. Our approach to TCEQ has to continually shown that the arsenic levels in the wells are below limits and mostly at non-detects. So we feel the well water actually improves the water quality of the river. Arsenic is a primary constituent per TCEQ. TDS is a secondary constituent, meaning the primary constituent may have health implications. The secondary one is more cosmetic, taste and odor. TDS would affect taste. So again, we feel the water from the well field actually improves the water of the river. It's also important to note that historically the river, before the construction of the Cal Allen Barrier Dam, was heavily influenced by the bay, and the bay water, it has been documented, would be 23 miles upstream. So currently the bay is about at 27 parts per million total dissolved solids, 27,000. So 1,500, 2,000 TDS in the river is not even close to that. Historically, the city of Corpus Christi built a barrier dam located near Labonte Park that was installed to allow for the city to utilize it as a reservoir and to take the water from that area of the river into Owen Stevens. Water flows over that dam during high rainfall events, and we're required to release water over that dam when we are, let me back up. We are not required to release water over the dam when the combined western reservoirs are below 30%. So we haven't released water over that dam in about a year and a half or so. The western well field that is in construction currently is producing about 10 million gallons a day. There's a number of benefits to the western well field. It's further away. That's not a benefit, but one of the benefits is the TDS is about half of the eastern well field. The water quality is much better, and the volume that we can safely produce from that well field is significantly greater. We're expecting the western well field to be online towards the end of May of this year.
How many wells are in there now in the
So
western?
currently there are 7 wells that are completed and operational. There is another well that is drilled, and we are waiting for the installation of the permanent pump. And then there are 4 wells at different stages of completion. One of the things that you may have heard of is the city has purchased groundwater rights from neighboring property to the western well field that's owned by the Ed Rochelle Foundation. That provides quite a bit of advantages. It allows us to spread the wells out. It provides more property for us to effectively develop and design the well field. One thing that I do want to make note of is the average area wells, the residential and the livestock wells in that area are about 250 feet. What the city has decided to do is to mitigate any impacts from the beginning. So our wells are cased and cemented. In the western well field, it's to a depth of about 515 feet. So well below the targeted depth of any residential wells. And we're targeting lower portions of the aquifer. So anywhere between 550 and 800 feet on average. So that one thing we're doing is we're bypassing better water quality. We're getting a little saltier water, but we know we're not affecting the local residential and livestock wells. At an expense, those wells, the design is certainly, the construction costs more. We are sacrificing some of the better water quality, but we know it's more sustainable going forward in the future, and we know we won't impact our neighbors. Additionally, we're taking impact seriously. We have installation of monitoring wells so we can understand the aquifer, and we also are working with our hydrogeologists to install subsidence monitoring locations to ensure that the effects of subsidence are not observed in the well field. So I mentioned earlier about a conveyance pipeline to pipe the water directly to Owen Stevens. So with that comes brackish groundwater treatment. We are working on permitting reverse osmosis brackish groundwater treatment. So in the western well field, the total dissolved solids is approximately 1,600 to 1,700 parts per million. We are installing reverse osmosis units to treat that, to take that number down to about 800 parts per million. And then we will blend that with all of our water from the eastern sources at the Owen Stevens Water Treatment Plant. The key to this is it avoids having to convey the water through the river, avoids losses in the river. It allows us to decrease the TDS content, the salt content, so that the water blends better with our existing water from the eastern supplies. That is moving very quickly. The delivery schedule for the treated water is shown here. Essentially, it's going to come on in stages and phases. We will be treating approximately 4 million gallons a day That will be online in February to March. And then it comes on about every 3 months after that. One thing that I do want to note before that full treatment is online, the pipeline to Owen Stevens will be built ahead of that. So before it's online, we will blend that water with our existing water supplies, and we will continue to use that water. That is coming on very quickly and very fast. If you notice, the recovery is about 85%. That's why 24 million gallons a day yields about 21.3 treated water, because we are removing through the reverse osmosis process, removing the total dissolved solids and other constituents. Wastewater reuse. We are very proud of the efforts that we have done in the last year towards wastewater reuse. One of the benefits of our system is we have large users that can take large volumes of wastewater, and that makes life a whole lot easier. So if I can pump 3 million gallons a day to one user, it just takes one pipe. To utilize 3 million gallons a day of wastewater and distribute that throughout your community to residents, it becomes extremely challenging. So in fact, and I will show you, our goal is to reuse 16 million gallons a day of wastewater reuse. The project itself is very complicated because there's many different facets to it. So the first one is our contract with Flint Hills Resources. Flint Hills, it will be taking up to 3 million gallons a day from our Allison wastewater treatment plant. The benefit there is Flint Hills has a raw water line that runs right through the Allison wastewater treatment plant project. And Flint Hills they own already the adjacent property. That will allow them to take our wastewater effluent. They are going to treat it, do a little bit of treatment, and then they will put it in their raw water line. Excuse me. The other big contract that our council has approved is a contract with Valero. Valero has committed approximately $100 million that they will be spending in capital improvements to run a conveyance line from our Greenwood wastewater treatment plant to their facility. They have agreed to upsize that line at their cost so that we can provide wastewater to other facilities utilizing that line. And once that line is installed and accepted, Valero will convey the ownership of that line to the city of Corpus Christi. These two companies have been absolutely a pleasure to work with, and they are absolutely working together to help us through this situation. The other component of all of this is we have what's called the Oso wastewater treatment plant. That's our largest wastewater treatment plant in the city. The downside is it's the furthest away from those large volume users. So we are working on a plan. The city will be constructing a conveyance line to pump 10 million gallons a day from the Oso wastewater treatment plant to the Greenwood wastewater treatment plant. And there they will be pumped through that Valero, quote unquote, Valero line to other customers. Our projections are that we will essentially be selling 16 million gallons of effluent reuse in total. And that's 16 million gallons a day that comes off of our potable water system. It's a significant reduction in our demand. Finally, I'd like to talk about seawater desalination. There are a number of projects to talk about. First one is our Inner Harbor Seawater Desalination Project. This is the only project that is fully permitted, fully approved by TCEQ, by the Army Corps of Engineers, and we have $755 million of low interest loan funding committed by the state of Texas. It has tremendous advantages. The little bit of history. So we had a design build contract with Kiewit Construction. The council canceled that contract with Kiewit. We brought forth another alternative that is with the Corpus Christi Desal Partners. That consists of a company called Acciona, which is a Spanish company. It consists of a company called Mastec, which is a nationwide company. They're a construction company. And then we also have local engineering done by Ardura. They are part of the Corpus Christi desal partners. Where all this stands is the original estimate was to bring a contract back to council in April, by the end of April. Recently, our council has asked for that to be delayed. It'll come back either in May or June. One of the reasons it has been delayed is the city separately is doing yet another far field study. There's been a tremendous amount of work done previously, and it continues to be done. So we are working to reassure all of our constituents that the Inner Harbor desalination plant will not adversely affect the bay environment. That work will be largely completed in May, and that's why we're going to correspond the bringing that contract back to council at that time frame. One of the advantages to this project, and the project will be designed for 30 million gallons a day. One of the advantages that I have to emphasize as an engineer is the location to distribution systems. Certainly the cost of any seawater desalination plant is expensive, but the longer you have to pipe the water and pump the water, the more expensive it gets. This plant is located 3 miles away from what we refer to as our navigation pump station. So in terms of this project, we take the treated water, we pump it 3 miles to the navigation pump station, which essentially is in the heart of the city of Corpus Christi, and then it's distributed throughout the city. That is a key advantage, and I bring it up because I don't want anyone to forget it. So there's a lot of work ongoing there. There's a lot of effort, and there will be council action items in May and June to move that project forward.
What's the anticipated cost?
So the Corpus Christi desal partners have given us an estimated cost of about $1 billion. Previously, Kiewit Construction was about $1.2 billion. The Harbor Island seawater desalination project, which of course is very close to home. I want to remind everyone that that is not a Corpus Christi water project at all. It's a Nueces River Authority project. However, the city of Corpus Christi is participating in that project. We have provided a reservation fee to reserve 50 million gallons a day from that 100 million gallon a day proposed plant. That allows us to negotiate in the future to reserve that water for and use for all of our customers. City of Corpus Christi, the permits are not with the city of Corpus Christi. The construction is not part of the city of Corpus Christi. The design is not part of the city of Corpus Christi at all. However, because of our contribution, which is about $2.7 million, we are able to provide design input on the conveyance line. And why is that important? It's because of what I just said. When you talk about cost, pumping and piping is a critical component. So if we can provide some input how to provide the most cost efficient piping, we want to do so to protect our ratepayers. There is they do have a administratively complete intake permit, and they have a draft they are expect to get a draft discharge permit soon. So we are monitoring the permitting process. We are not part of it, but we are monitoring it and continue to work with the Nueces River Authority. You may hear a lot of talk about the Barney Davis site. That is an existing power plant that is owned by CPS Energy. The site has long been considered for a potential location for a seawater desalination plant. Our city council has authorized city staff to continue to negotiate with Barney Davis to investigate to see the feasibility and the likelihood of us moving forward on a project at Barney Davis. Right now, the city continues to work with CPS Energy on the potential project there. There are no specific permits for that site. There are no specific permits have been applied for. What the site does have is a intake permit. They have an intake permit to pull water from the Laguna Madre for their use in terms of their power operation. So that's our water supply projects, and that is how we are working every day to avoid what I'm going to talk about next. So a couple of things I want to just reiterate. So level 1 water emergency, you'll hear that. That is when we are 180 days projected from supply not meeting demand. It doesn't mean we run out of water in 180 days. It means we will be unable to provide enough water to meet all of the demands of all of our customers. Talked extensively at our council meeting today about baseline usage. One thing about baseline usage, that is the usage our customers have under normal circumstances. I won't get into it, but when you look at our number of our customers, when you look at historic usage, there certainly are some things that get in the way of the appropriateness of that number. One of it is COVID, which we saw historic drops in water usage across many of our customer classes. So we've got to take all that in effect and essentially use what we feel is the most appropriate baseline number. From the baseline, we will establish a curtailment percentage. That is the percentage that baseline will be reduced to end up with an allocation. So established baseline minus curtailment gives your allocation. The allocation is the important number to know. There are a number of things that were misquoted in the media over the last couple of days. One of them was that all customers would have to be reduced by X percentage. That's not true, because what's important is the allocation, and the percentage comes off the baseline. And I'll walk through that in the next couple of slides here. So again, this is our water supply dashboard, and the goal is anyone who operates a water system, and Scott Mack can attest to that, and I appreciate Scott being here today. We always want our supply to meet our demand. We don't ever want to be in this position. So if this gets to the point, we've got to enact curtailment to allow for this to happen. At an estimated 25% curtailment across all of our customer classes, our supply will always be able to meet our demand. Couple of things to point out here. And it's important to note, projects like Evangeline are not on here. If that is permitted and it happens, this changes drastically. Historic rainfall, any rainfall events, Lake Texana recovers and there's no threat of that 20% curtailment. This changes, it improves. Rainfall in our western reservoirs and we see a little bit of rebound. This changes and it improves. Catastrophic issues where maybe we can't get water to where it needs in terms of a break or a failure. This changes to the negative and it gets worse, right? So this is just our projected dashboard. Our commitment is to update this at a minimum every 30 days. Say we got 10 inches of rain in the western reservoir next week, we would update it immediately showing that after that. But our commitment is to update this at least every 30 days. But this shows how every customer class, so our customer classes are our residential customers is one, our commercial customers, our wholesale customers, which is Nueces County WCID 4, who serves all of you, and our large volume users. Those are our customer classes. So I will continue to go through this. So how does this affect all of you? You through Nueces County WCID number 4, one of our great partners, is a wholesale customer. What we will do, we will look at a period of record from 2022 to 2024. It's a 3-year period. We will exclude the lowest value in each month and come up with a seasonal allocation. Essentially, there'll be 3 seasons: summer, spring and fall, and then winter. And that's how we will determine your baseline. And then from there is remove the curtailment percentage, which gets you to your allocation. What's more telling is this next slide. This is the water usage for Nueces County WCID number 4. And the first thing that I noticed, and I hope all of you notice, is the reduction in usage over the years. That means that the people here in Port Aransas overall as a group are following the drought restrictions. It's very evident to see. Now, if you remember what I talked about, the baseline is usage under normal periods. And I said 22 to 24. So 2025, we were largely in drought restrictions most of the year. So we're not looking at that data. So there's a couple of ways to look at this. The existing drought contingency plan calls for a baseline determination, which is that dark blue line that goes up and down. However, we don't feel that's the most appropriate. What we've recommended to our council is acceptance of the method that I described on the previous slide, which is the orange line, which is a little higher number. Again, from that approved baseline, the curtailment percentage would be reduced and then an allocation would be made, and it would be seasonal, which again is very important to all of our wholesale customers, because as you can see, especially here in Port Aransas, there's seasonal fluctuation. You're all very much aware of that. All that being said, I just want to reiterate that the strategic plan of Corpus Christi Water is to diversify the water supply, set up a water supply system that is sustainable and beneficial for the region going forward. And I tell people all the time, we're trying to get to a point where we have a system that we can manage and operate. When you have a system that is solely dependent upon surface water, you certainly have to deal with situations of a 5-year historic drought. And of course, that's beyond all of our control. There's a lot of information there. This is my last slide. I'll stand by for any questions and do my best to answer.
Our water district on that previous slide.
Yeah, let's
if
put
you
it
go to the alternative.
That'd be the
Historically-
orange.
Okay,
Yeah.
historically, I don't want to say we have room to use more water, but we're well below the allocation you would give us.
So one thing to remember, and this is where the wording becomes extremely important. So the orange line is your baseline,
Correct.
and the curtailment currently we're estimating at 25%. So all of the numbers would be 25% lower than the orange line, essentially, which gives you your allocation. However, with that being said, from the graph, you can see if you repeat your 2025 data, you should be in a strong position to manage that going forward.
How are the other cities doing?
In terms of,
Can you
Oh.
be the,
so it varies.
Yeah.
So the unique, and I appreciate that question. So the unique thing about Nueces County WCID number 4, Port Aransas is their customer. If you look at San Patricio Municipal Water District, their customers are Portland, Taft, Gregory. They've got Rockport. Of course, they supply some water to you as well. So it gets very challenging. And one thing that I would like to point out when you talk about Portland, Taft, Gregory, they are not Corpus Christi Water customers. San Patricio Municipal Water District is our customer. And San Patricio has to deal with their customers. One thing that we talk about a lot is Corpus Christi Water, our business is our customer classes, residential, commercial, wholesale, and large volume. Those are the customers we deal with. And then each of those entities also have customers or tenants or large volume users, and they have to deal with their customers. It's not our job to get in that business.
So if you go to an additional curtailment, would the city make the decision, City of Corpus and Nueces, or your CC Water, to not curtail your residential and your commercial users as much as you would your wholesale users, which would then negatively affect us?
The curtailment percentage would all be the same.
Okay.
So the curtailment percentage, as I presented today, is 25%. That's the same across all customer classes. Admittedly, the baseline is different, and it's different because every customer is a little different. So we want to go back and look at the historical usage, just like as shown here, to determine that. But the percentage curtailment is the same across all customer classes.
If the governor declares a disaster, does that give you guys any federal help? Where could that help?
So the governor, because of the drought, and excuse me for terminology, but essentially has declared a drought disaster for the region, and that has absolutely helped us. Additionally, the governor has expedited some of our permits, certainly our bed and banks permit for the Western well field. I was targeting we would receive that in May, but we actually received it in March. So there's tremendous assistance there. So the governor is helping as he sees fit. The projects that the city of Corpus Christi is approving, the majority are being approved under public health and safety. And we are the standard procurement process is shortened significantly because of that, because we're doing it under a public health and safety exemption so that we can get contractors lined up as quick as possible. So the official declaration of a disaster, beyond what we're doing now, I don't know if that would provide us any immediate.
Right, the governor doesn't have any legal authority over San Patricio Groundwater Conservation District. Does anybody? Are they a sole standalone entity that answers to just themselves?
So they are the state legislature has to approve groundwater conservation districts. They approve that district. They operate within the state laws and state regulations. I know they certainly receive input.
So you mentioned that there was information in your meeting today that was hot off the press, if you will. So what about your slides was something new, and was it more positive in the direction we're going, or was it perhaps more negative?
No, so a lot of times, I'll be honest, when I think something is positive, there are people who think it's negative.
Well, tell us the good stuff first.
Previously, I submitted about a month ago multiple dashboard scenarios. Those scenarios had shown us going into level 1 emergency as early as May, and the most optimistic one was never. Today, what we've been working on is to firm up those numbers. It shows the level 1 water emergency projected to be September. That's much better than May, because time is important. It gives us more time for us to bring things online. And the optimistic case is still out there that we never hit level 1 water emergency. So that's very, very optimistic. The other things that we discussed in our council meeting today, and I do want to bring these up. So under our drought contingency plan, when we hit level 1 water emergency, per the plan, car washing is prohibited. boat washing is prohibited. Flushing of, and one thing that I clarified today, flushing of boat motors is not prohibited. We do recommend, if possible, capturing that water for reuse somehow, some way. Because washing your car with auxiliary water can be done. So that can be done with well water, can be done with water capture, rainwater, can be done with gray water. It can be done with water that you captured from your boat motors, things like that. The irrigation of landscaped areas is absolutely prohibited at level 1 water emergency. You can water potted plants and potted vegetables. But beyond that, as it currently reads and currently stands, it's prohibited. So those were not changes, but just reminders to the council. We did go over that today as well.
If we get significant rain in the next couple months, will you continue with these projects so that this doesn't happen again? Or will brakes and cancel some of the projects so we could be back in the boat 10 years from now?
Great question, and Councilman, I appreciate you asking that. And I'll go project by project. The Nueces groundwater project is proceeding. Contracts are let, construction is going on, it is not stopping. The Brackish groundwater treatment is happening. Contracts are let, construction is going on, is not stopping. The San Patricio Evangeline groundwater project. Contracts are let. We're gonna spend approximately $600 million on that project. A pipe will start being installed in May. That project, it's all about timing. We need those drilling permits to be approved. Our council has approved that project, and we feel it's all about time when those drilling permits are approved. Wastewater reuse, we have contracts with Valero and Flint Hills on the books. I continue to negotiate with other large volume entities who are extremely interested. I expect those contracts to be approved in the next month or two, probably 2 months. Seawater desalination, our council has to approve the contract when we represent it for us to move forward.
So their ball's in their court for that particular project.
It will be once we represent the contract. That's correct. They have to approve it to go forward. And all that being said, if all of these projects, and you talk about sustainability and having a diversified water supply, they're not just important to me, but they're important to you. They're important to 7 counties, 500,000 people. Certainly, if you're supportive of those projects, we would like for you to let the people who have to vote on those projects know that. That would be extremely beneficial.
If the council approves the desal, how long would it take to construct?
It's about 3 years, plus or minus, before it's online, which is fast for 30 million gallons a day. That's extremely fast. We'll put if knock on wood, they will approve it. And if that's the case, I guarantee you, we will do everything we can to bring that in on and ahead of schedule.
Nick, if all the projects come online outside of the desal facility, which is still a long-term project, where does, assuming we get no substantial rain, where does that put us in the stage of restrictions? I think you said that we could probably prevent level 1, assuming those other projects come online. But if we don't get any rain, does that keep us at stage 3 until the desalination plant exists? Or does that even give us an opportunity to get back to 2 or something that we can water maybe once a week?
Yeah, that's right. That's a great question. And I'm going to just go back to the dashboard and
I'm just saying, yeah.
no, and many people are, and I certainly agree. I know certainly a lot of people are putting in xeriscape, and you can see that.
Or drilling their own wells.
Drilling their own wells. You know, I do remind everyone, I mean, we're on the edge of what was called the Wild Horse Desert. So we need to remember what this area is. But to answer your question, Mayor, so this is our dashboard. If Evangeline comes online
which is not on there.
It was not on there. If it comes online, it extends the projected date of level 1 water emergency into next year. Right? And then, but to answer your question, we need to have some rain in
Yeah.
the western reservoirs.
Sure.
And you definitely need it to get out of stage 3 water restrictions. You have to have rain to recover the western reservoirs. And I don't disagree with that. And I'll tell you why, because the water coming from Lake Texana and the Colorado River is one pipeline. There's one way to Owen Stevens. So certainly you need those western reservoirs to recover to provide that that water availability that we need to get out of those drought levels.
Mhm.
Are those existing water lines that are operational, are they maintained well in good condition to keep providing what they're providing?
Absolutely. We've done tremendous amount of work over the last couple of years. We've done a full condition assessment. So we had planned Mary Rose Pipeline Phase 1, which is Lake Texana to Owen Stevens. It was 25 years ago last year. It had a birthday. And as part of that plan, you do a condition assessment. We did a very in-depth condition assessment, and we were able to move that pipeline from 43 million gallons a day to 55 million gallons a day, and today it's doing 72 million gallons a day. And people ask all the time, can you do more? And that's a very fair question. And the answer is no. And I'll tell you why. The water isn't there to pump it. There's only a finite, the city of Corpus Christi has a contract with LNRA to get a certain amount of water out of Lake Texana, and we only have a certain amount of water that we can pull from the lower Colorado River. If we pump more than 72 million gallons a day, we wouldn't have water. If you say you pumped 100 million gallons a day, you'd run out of water in July or August, and then you wouldn't have any water left to pump at the end of the year. So it's not a matter of the pipeline, it's a matter of supply, the water getting into the pipeline. Which is an advantage of the Evangeline project, because you're adding an additional supply to go through the Mary Rose pipeline.
Well, you see in the news, there's just so much rain everywhere else, and other areas do have water. I mean, are there other means, or anybody thinking of anything, other means to get water here besides obviously the wells and the desals, but other, maybe bring water in by other sources? Or
So one thing that we've done is last year we signed an agreement with Formosa Plastics. Formosa is the other large user from Lake Texana. They had available water on their contract. And I'm very thankful to Formosa. They allowed us to purchase 10,000 acre feet a year. And why that's important is our contract with Lake Texana, we're allowed 31,440 acre feet of water, but in good times, essentially they'll give us an additional 12,000 acre feet of water. Last year, we weren't able to get that additional 12,000 acre feet, so we slid in that Formosa 10,000 acre feet.
Now, what does that produce in MGD?
So it's more about having volume to
Right.
keep the pipeline at 72
Okay.
million gallons a day for the entire year. So it allows us to keep pumping at 72
higher
million gallons for
amount,
the
yeah.
entire year. And we're under contract with Formosa again this year. We expect to use that water in November and December so that we can keep pumping that 72 million gallons a day. All the contracts, the water right contracts restart January 1. So January 1, the more water is available.
If everything is going well and it's raining, are you still allowed to pump and get all the water per your contracts and put it into Lake Corpus Christi and use it as a holding tank?
So the Mary Rose pipeline comes to the Owen Stevens water treatment plant, where we treat the water and distribute it to the system. We do not pump
Yeah.
water from Lake Texana in the Colorado to Wesley Seal Dam. That would be a major engineering project. It'd be a significant cost. Yeah, it'd be a significant cost as well.
Well, we appreciate your time and coming over and spending so much time with us and giving us all the information. It's really helpful. And thank you
Absolutely.
for continuing to work with Scott and his team. And they obviously are doing a great job keeping us in check because we're really conserving water, I guess. Maybe we can keep, yeah, maybe we get an extra allocation if curtailment
So
comes.
Scott should give you an A, not me.
Yeah,
And I'll give Scott the A.
we're gonna give Scott the A for sure.
Yeah, but no, we appreciate all the support. This is a difficult subject. So I try and be very clear when I talk about it. A lot of things can get misinterpreted. We're available for questions and comments. A couple of things to look at, and that's what one council member always says, what should I look for? What should I look for? Look for news on the regarding the Lake Texana Reservoir percentage, look for news on the Lake Corpus Christi and Choke Canyon percentage, look for updates to this dashboard. And then, of course, I write a weekly water supply update memo, which details all of the weekly progress on every single one of these projects as well. That's available. And if you're really interested, go to securingwater.corpuschristitx.gov. My weekly water supply memos on there. All of the information about all these projects is on there. And then there's links to this dashboard as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
They do a water update every Friday.
Yeah.
And believe what you get from them, not what you get from everybody
Yeah.
else.
That's right, yeah,
So
exactly.
make sure you're getting the truth before you get married, before you get freaked out.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. Thank
Yes,
you, Mayor.
thank
and
you.
Thank you, David.
Very much.
Thank you.
Not what you see on Facebook.
All right. That was very informative. We appreciate that. All right, we're going to move on to item 4, which is citizen comments and reports. And right now I have one, and that is Mr. John Crampett. So John, you want to come up front? I know you haven't been up here in a while, but you know the drill. 3 minutes, state your name.
I don't know if I want to be here after that presentation.
Well, it's informative.
My name is John Crumpets. I'm a resident 536 Aransas Channel here in Port Aransas. I'm here simply to, as a representative of the school district and the School Health Advisory Committee. The SHAC committee was a statutory committee created by the legislature back in 1997 or 98, requiring all districts in Texas to create that committee. And initially it was for the purpose of giving local control to the school districts in terms of the human sexuality education. Since then, in 2002 or 3, an additional Senate bill then pushed onto the committee all health issues within the district. So specifically, Dr. McKinney came to the council and asked us to do something about e-bikes. She had been getting a lot of complaints and concerns from parents about kids having accidents with e-bike riders while they're walking to school, parents driving their, picking up their kids, dropping off or picking up their kids and having near accidents or minor accidents with kids. So there's a lot of anecdotal information out there about e-bikes and their, e-bike on bike, e-bike on pedestrian, e-bike on automobile accidents, right? So there's also a lot of confusion in the public about applicable laws. What's required in terms of helmet use? Are there inspections for e-bikes, permits for e-bikes? It really is a mixed bag. For instance, even in the city of Corpus Christi, I've talked to the police department. I'm on the advisory committee for the Parks and Rec, and Parks and Rec independently has created some bike regulations for use in the parks, right? But I'm not sure if those coincide, if there are any regulations with the city. So to get to the point, I'm here because it seems our committee didn't seem it was very prudent or smart to act as a standalone committee and go back to the district and the school board and make any recommendations without maybe talking to the city and talking to interested components. So just to inform you that we are going to launch into this because we kind of have to legally. And also we are concerned about having a consistent message to our kids and our parents about what is required, what isn't required, what is legal, what is not illegal. So a critical component would be an educational piece, and of course, the school will be able to handle that. But beyond that, any information, that we can provide parents for clear direction, seems to me, we'd like the city to participate in that effort with us.
Okay,
Thank you.
really noted. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item 5, which is executive session. According to section 551.071 of the Texas Open Meetings Act, to meet with our attorney and seek legal advice on matters in which the duty of the attorney to the city council under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, the State Board of Texas clearly conflicts with Open Meetings Act relating to these following items. We will go into executive session. Section 551.071, Texas Government Code, consult with our attorney, closed meeting. Section 551.72, Texas Government Code, deliberation regarding real property, discuss regarding possible purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property relating to the Palmia Qualified Hotel Project proposal, and section 551.087, Texas Government Code, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations to discuss or deliberate the offer to have financial or other incentives to a business prospect to the city council seeks to have, locate, stay, or expand near our territory, the city of Port Aransas, with which the city of Port Aransas is conducting an economic development negotiations relating to the Palmia Qualified Hotel Project proposal, including proposed memorandum of understanding and professional services agreement. And finally, section 551.074, personnel to conduct the city manager's annual evaluation. So we will close now and we will invite y'all back after we reopen. Thank you.